please, if you would.
Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, that the City of Smithville will conduct an Impact Fee Advisory Committee workshop on June 16th, 2026 at 5 p.m. in the City Council Chambers of City Hall, 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. Call the meeting to order. Jimmy Jenkins, you had comments what you'd like to share with us?
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
worked with TML today about the Impact Committee meeting and how representatives will be on it and what needs to happen. So we are good like it stands, according to Tad Cleaves, but he suggested a couple of things to make this fit more in line with the new law that where they cleaned this whole thing up in the legislature for 2026. So part of the thing is half of the committee, 50%, has to be made up of real estate, developmental, and building. And because you were all appointed as P and Z, you cannot be one of them. So what we have to do is we have to have the whole board reappointed. Now, y'all can meet tonight and do all this because you're not really making decisions about it, but you will all have to reapply as citizens, not as P and Z members. And it will be open to anybody, and then the council will have to reappoint the whole board.
I asked you just, pardon me, to speak up a little about everybody hearing you. Can I ask you just to speak up a little?
Okay, I can do that.
I forgot to put my hearing aid in.
Okay. All right, Nancy, because of what we're doing here, we are going to have the whole board be reappointed as private citizens. Okay? And it will be open to anybody in the public that wants to apply for it. But we will have to meet the recommendations. And I think this board meets it once we get Brian Wells on there, because that will be the developmental part. Mr. Slaughter will be will be the real estate part. And then Sandy will be the building for it, the building construction. And then the rest of you meet the other 50%, then you can move forward and do everything that needs to be done with the P&Z. I mean, with the impact fee meeting and the board. And that's all I've got to say on it, guys.
Thank you. Are there any citizen comments? Anybody signed up to speak?
Not at this time.
We'll go to item number 2.
All right. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to the city of Smithville developing impact fees, something that's been a goal for the city for some time, as I understand it. And it's also one of the SMART goals that I've been appointed with as well. So I just wanted to kind of present some of the information that I've gathered together that will kind of demystify some of the process and the complexity of it. I do appreciate Vice Mayor Pro Tem kind of helping us navigate some of the legislative hurdles that we obviously have with this. So this is all informational. It is there is no action required. It's just meant to provide information. So I will go through the presentation and feel free to interrupt at any point. I may or may not have the answer, but if I don't, I will write it down and I'll get back to you. So, so first thing, and I'm sure this is partially an educational opportunity for the community as well, in addition to you all who may or may not know about impact fees. So the first question is, what is even an impact fee? What is the benefit? What does it do? Why do we want it? So state law defines an impact fee as a charge on new development used to pay for capital improvements or facility expansions that are needed because of that development. So what impact fee is not, well, cities may adopt impact fees for several things. Water supply treatment or water supply and treatment, those are two separate things. Distribution, wastewater collection and treatment, stormwater drainage, flood control facilities, and for roadway facilities inside the city limits. What an impact fee cannot fund are repairs, routine operations, maintenance, upgrades that serve the existing development.
I have a question. Can impact fees also be related to police, fire, and school? Because if you're having 100 more people come in, it's going to affect your police, your fire, and your school if they have children,
Correct.
school-age children.
And that
Does
is
that
a
apply
good
to-
question. I'm not 100% on that. I do know that the fees are required to be maintained in a separate account and they can only be used for specific things. So I can get the full list of that, but what we did find that they can't fund are, routine operations, which in my mind would probably include public safety. I don't hold me to that, but I would think so. Maintenance, and upgrades that serve existing developments. So any capital improvement that's not listed in the city's adopted capital improvement plan cannot be funded with impact fees either. So that is, there's a lot of limitations.
Today, there hasn't been, there hasn't been in the past with the development that has started any kind of fees that are tied to wastewater
Not,
for developers, I mean.
not in terms of impact fees, no. We charge our regular connect fees,
Right.
water,
Tap.
water taps.
Yeah.
Permits, inspections, plan reviews, things like that. Your
So
normal.
there was nothing, or there hasn't been anything based on the size of a development as to impact, but not going according to that name.
No.
So this, okay,
So
all
this
the
is-
more important that we do this now.
And it can really kind of stave off some of the costs associated with some of the things that end up being a burden to the city from a financial perspective, because if we have a developer come in, we may still have to put work into the drainage or the roads or things that assist with that development. These impact fees can be used for some of those purposes. So it definitely saves taxpayers money by having this as an option.
City Manager, I have a question as well. My understanding that prior to implementation of impact fees, a proposal for a plan, you need to have the CIP and land use approved prior to the development of this, because there's a timeline on
Correct.
within 90 days.
Correct.
Are you going to address that later
Yes.
in this?
Oh, and
Thank
I
you.
can address that now, actually. So the city has been working for some time to develop a comprehensive plan. And this was even back when Jill Strube was here. And she was actually very instrumental in that whole process. The comprehensive plan is now developed. I've gotten percentages of 99%, 99.5%, which I don't know what the difference is there, but it's essentially complete. And the group that has been over that process, which I believe is Langford, they are set to present that, and the council will have the option to adopt the comprehensive plan in July and/or August. We're hoping for July. And when that happens, the capital improvement plan, which is connected or which is part of that comprehensive plan, will also be adopted. So all the pieces that we were missing, that we needed to move forward with this process will have been concluded once that is adopted.
And what is the rule that if you do not, so is the CIP plan an annual plan?
No, the capital improvement plan, it can be amended annually, but it usually is a 5-year, a 10-year plan. I've seen it go as high as 10-year actually, but usually it's a 5-year plan.
And impact fees, can they be adjusted annually so if you do not have a development in your CIP plan at the time that your impact fee program is implemented, then you don't get to apply impact fees to that CIP. So if your CIP changes, you go back to city council, amend the CIP, and then you can also amend impact fees to future developments?
Correct. However, the impact fees can only be, and that's actually going to be part of this presentation. It is in here. I think they can only be amended on a 3-year basis. So every 3 years. Yeah. So kind of going back here, and so the question is, where may cities access impact fees? Cities can access impact fees, well, within city limits is the short answer, but that's actually not 100% correct. That's for most categories. It can also be accessed in the ETJ or extraterritorial jurisdiction. Roadway impact fees are the exception there. Those fees actually only apply in the city limits. So water and wastewater and drainage service areas that do actually extend into the ETJ, and a city can impose impact fees outside the city limits in those very rare cases. And there's actually some more language that basically says that if that is the case, someone who actually is in the ETJ would have to be part of that process and or involved with the committee. And I think we'll come across that here shortly. So some of the limitations, and this is a recent limitation, that beginning September 1st, 2025, a city may not impose an impact fee on land where an existing building has been converted to mixed use or multifamily use, unless the land was already subject to an impact fee before the city received a permit application for that conversion. I know that's like a complicated list of situations there or circumstances, but again, the impact fees are very specific and governed, very strictly. So how are the impact fees calculated? Impact fees rest on two documents, and these are the two documents essentially that we've been waiting on with the comprehensive plan. One is the land use assumption plan, and the other is the capital improvement plan. The land use assumptions describe expected growth in a service area over at least a 10-year period. And the capital improvement plan identifies the capital improvements, facility expansions that growth will require. Those plans, or the plan, must identify existing facilities, show current and committed capacity, describe the improvements needed because of growth, and estimate the cost of those improvements. It must also include a table, and generally we could hire an engineer to help us with that, but we've already gotten through that process. It requires a table that converts land uses into service units and a credit structure based on either revenues from the new development or a flat 50% credit. And that resulting impact fee may not exceed the cost of needed improvements minus the required credit. If the impact fee is adopted after the land is platted, the city cannot assess the fee against any service unit that receives a building permit within 1 year of adoption. Essentially, it's pretty straightforward. If the land is, if the impact fee is adopted after the land has already been platted, then the city can assess the impact fee until 1 year later, basically. Yeah. So they kind of escape the impact fee if that's the case. What is the point of the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, or what is the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee? Cities, City of Smithville, must appoint a Capital Improvements Advisory Committee before they can begin the impact fee adoption process. Ultimately, it starts with all the requirements that we need to set up impact fees. We have to have the committee, we have to have the land use plan, the capital improvement plan, and you all have to agree as to how that process moves forward. There's posting requirements, and once we have all that in place, we would have a fee schedule that would be adopted through an ordinance, and the council would be the one to ultimately adopt that, but it would be developed at this level. The legislator amended the allowable composition of this committee, and the Mayor Pro Tem kind of alluded to that earlier, that at least 5 members of that committee, with half of those have to be real estate development or building community, and they cannot be city officials or employees. And so we have a very interesting situation, and I don't know that it's not a decision as of yet. However, we have some considerations to make at the airport. If those things move forward, then we may have to change our membership at a later date. When a city plans to apply impact fees in the ETJ, the committee must also include a representative from that area. That's kind of what I was stating earlier, that yes, it does apply generally to city limits, but when you go outside into the ETJ, then there would have to be a representative from that area on the committee. And the committee is a standing body that remains active after impact fees are adopted. So you all do not disband once your work is done. So no getting away. What is the process of adopting? And we kind of talked about that earlier. We mentioned, and I won't read it all, but draft a land use assumption, capital improvement plan, have a hearing on that, 120 days, within 120 days of the receipt of, by the council. And give notice to the community at least 30 days in advance, draft the CIP, land use assumptions available to the public at least 60 days in advance. We adopt, the governing body would adopt. Advisory committee must file written comments at least 6 business days before the hearing. And as of September 1st, 2025, approval of the impact fee requires a supermajority, 2/3 vote of all members. And I thought it was very interesting the more I learned about it, because some of this is very, very new information to even me, because it's just an interesting process. Builders can actually earn impact fee credits through water reuse and or conservation, which I thought was pretty neat. And that's a very recent change. Beginning January 1st, 2026, cities must provide a credit against water and wastewater impact fees when a builder or developer installs improvements that produce water reuse, conservation, or measurable savings. And there's multiple systems that do that. Eligible facilities are those that essentially accomplish that goal and lower the demand for water, essentially, and decrease the load on the wastewater and water collection system. Those credits would be granted. They must be adopted through a procedure that you all would set out at a later time. And earlier, we mentioned Senate Bill 1883. And I won't go through it again because there's a lot of repeat of essentially what I've said about the 2/3 majority vote and, notice of publication and 2/3 approval. So at this point, I would kind of yield back to the committee. If you all have any specific questions or things that you'd like me to research, we can talk about that and we can move forward. But at this point, we cannot move forward because as a committee, you all do not exist yet. And so again, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, we will appoint individuals, not individuals of the P&Z committee. You all have the ability to apply. Anyone does have the ability to be on that committee. And the council will ultimately make that decision. So any specific questions or things that you'd like me to look into for our next meeting?
How are you going to let the citizens know that they can apply for this committee?
And Jennifer
And
can
when?
answer that, but basically it would be no different than any other committee that we, post. Do you want to speak to that at all?
The only way I know is if they go online and do a application and just check other, where it says what board you're wanting to do. We have in the past pushed out that we're looking for people to sign up for boards, and we can do that again on Facebook or website.
Because I know there have been several citizens who have applied for various boards.
Mhm.
I didn't know if you were going to reach out to some of them or let them come to you. You go to them or they go to you. How did y'all want to handle that?
We do maintain a list of those who are interested because that's, it's just a smart idea. Everybody doesn't have the time and the energy. And if we don't receive candidates, we will oftentimes reach out, but it is open to the public. As a government, we have to consider all candidates. So however, if we don't get any applicants, we do go the extra mile to see if there's other people who are interested, who may have been interested in the past.
Just wondering.
I wanted to recommend that the name not be Impact Fee Advisory Committee, but Capital Improvement Advisory Committee, because that aligns closer to Senate Bill 1883. And you can appoint that advisory committee before they begin the impact fee adoption process. It seems to me that it is rolled up under the CIP advisory committee. And And I don't, just if you would research that and see what other folks are doing. I know in Bastrop, you've got an ordinance for impact fees, but I don't know what they call that committee.
And I can look into that,
Okay,
definitely.
thank you. And how would you pick somebody outside the ETJ to be represented on this committee? Because it seems to me you're not going to be notified of anybody doing anything with the ETJ unless, like our planning and zoning group would know, you want to annex land into Smithville, and therefore that's how you know you're either in or out of the ETJ.
That's a good question. If I had a crystal ball, I'd probably guess the lotto numbers more before I'd try to figure that out. But in all honesty, we post it, we make the information available. We are aware of individuals who've expressed interest in being annexed into the city. That'd be a good place to start, but there is no way for us to know everyone who might even consider being annexed and therefore be part of that ETJ. So really, we just make a best effort that we can make with those individuals who we know currently are considering or have considered in the past being annexed in.
Okay, because like the second bullet point on that says, when a city plans to apply impact fees in the ETJ, the committee must also include a representative from that area.
Correct.
Sounds like you just put whoever owns that land, whoever's going to buy that land. I don't know.
And
And then do they automatically become members of this and it's a 2-year membership? Do they stay?
I think we can encourage individuals to apply, but I don't believe that there will be any process for us to select those individuals. We can encourage and we would hope that they would consider it, but there's no guaranteed way for us to do that.
Thank
But
you.
Thank you. That was a great question. I will look into that. Okay. Do we have any other specific, or please?
I'm concerned about timing, right?
Mhm.
The city council would review and approve nominations for people to be on what I'm going to call the CIP advisory committee. Is that, and you plan on having the comp plan reviewed and adopted at either July or August? So timing, what are you thinking?
I'd have to sit down and look at that. As far as the comp plan, it went through several review processes within the community. So part of that has already been accomplished. And so I don't think we would have to circle back around to do that. But that's something I would have to double check with the attorney and also with Jill, if she's still available to us, she still will speak. And so that's something I could double check with her as well. And Langford as well, obviously, might be a good resource to help us figure that out.
I would expect the last conversation that I recall from city council meeting was that Langford would come before city council and review their final proposal, and then it would be for adoption. People would come to that as an open meeting and they would speak if they wanted to speak. But you're right, we're at 90% as of the last meeting, and so this is the final push.
Yes.
So that has to be reviewed and approved. CIP has to be reviewed and approved before you can then get into the impact fee conversation.
Correct.
So that's July, August, September, and then you're at the new fiscal year.
Yes. And honestly, it kind of works out because it aligns perfectly with our new fiscal year budget. And so it might be something that, while it won't be a general fund revenue, because it'll be maintained separately with specific purposes, no different than an airport fund, it would allow us to track it along with every other departmental fund expense that we have. So if we could get this to happen by October 1, it actually would be very beneficial to the city.
I have nothing further. Anybody? We'll go to citizen comments for item number 3, discussion and possible action as a result of the workshop. Anybody signed up to speak?
No.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
Moved, second, all in favor? Aye.